You're listening to the Blacktop Banter podcast, the premier podcast in the asphalt industry, made for contractors with contractors.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Blacktop Banter. We're here for another episode, and this kind of feels a little more official this time. I have a returning guest, a gentleman that we tried to do the official way, and my schedule, something happened, his schedule, something happened, and then we end up going to Con Expo, doing one there live, and now we get to come back. So my guest today is Brad Williams. Brad Williams is a consultant, speaker, and author at Structured to Grow. Brad focuses on B2B marketing, content strategy, is a national speaker and author. His LinkedIn states, "I'm on a mission to impact a million service businesses. Small business is the backbone of our economic freedoms and the American dream. The problem is many small businesses never make it, and even more never really find any level of success. I'm out to change that through training, coaching, marketing, strategy, and building community." How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I've been excited for this conversation. I feel like it's a long time coming, so I'm pumped.
You know what's crazy is, like, most of the time for me, if I meet somebody and I realize they do podcasting, which you do, and you do social media and whatnot, and then they build it into their businesses, there's this introduction, this meeting where we become friends, and then we get on a podcast. But in my situation, in your situation, we didn't do that. We met each other there, and then got to see each other kind of grow in what they do, and kind of shadow each other on social media. So it makes it really fun that we have a lot to talk about, and it makes this conversation, the build up to it anyways, very exciting. So ironically, because we're friends and we follow each other, we comment on each other's stuff in different posts. And I posted a quote the other day, and I was like, dude, we got to get on the podcast and talk about this. And like, yeah, we have one scheduled, right? So I'm going to read it real quick. "The man who chases two rabbits catches neither." Confucius, right? Pretty easy, pretty simple, but it's a lot there, right?
Yeah.
Like we're in Blacktop Banter's podcast studio, which is in Spring Green, Wisconsin. My other business, Wiscoat, which was the foundation for this, is in Lone Rock. There's an office there. I'm essentially chasing two rabbits, right? And I want the big plump one, you know. I want the one that feeds everybody, that looks good, has got good muscle texture, like all that. But I feel like maybe I'm catching like the two babies that like can't get away and whatnot. I'm like, am I embodying this quote by Confucius? But you said you kind of feel like you're in that state, or you feel it anyways. You struggle with it. Yeah,
you know, this whole thing has been something that I struggle with continuously. I remember the first time I heard this quote. I was doing a podcast. Imagine that. How long ago was it? At least 2 years ago. And I'm interviewing this guy. I didn't know him real well at the time. I've grown to become friends with the guy. He's an amazing entrepreneur, and he says this quote on the podcast. And I don't even remember the context that he was sharing it in, but it was like somebody punched me in the gut. So at the time, I had recently kind of made a shift. So we've done marketing and consulting for a long time, and I had two clients come to me and both kind of offer me like this new thing. And I guess it just hit me at the right time. You know, sometimes you're just like, new sounds better than current, right? The grass looks greener. And so they both wanted to partner. And so I was like, okay, so we're going to kind of take our consulting business, our marketing business, and we're going to go in these new directions with people that we really like. And so I took on partnering with two businesses at the same time that could not be more different. One was a consulting business that we were going to go build community and do this consulting thing together, and they were very good at it. And the other one was a chemical manufacturing and retail business.
Oh, okay.
Right? So they both were like, come partner with me. And you know, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds awesome. You know, I can say yes to both of these things. Of course, why not? Why would that be a bad idea?
No, of course not.
And he tells me this quote, and it immediately hit me that I am chasing two rabbits. And whether or not what the relationships were in those businesses, you know, I was trying to serve two masters. And it took less than a year for me to catch no rabbits. And I'll leave it at that. But I have found that I just have this tendency. I get excited. You know, as an entrepreneur, the next idea, the next thing I want to, it's not that I don't really want to have this other priority or this one priority. It's just like, but there's these other one and this one and that one, and I want to do them all. Yeah. And it's very easy for me to wake up and realize I'll get into trying to start 3 things at the same time. And so when you wrote that quote, I was like, man, that just always resonates with me. And it's always something that I feel like I have to fight with, of, you know, having that priority, like giving my all to something, to one thing.
Yeah. I seen, there was a book, I can't think of the author right now, that I read called, was it The One Thing, I think? And it's focusing just on that. It talks about all the successful businesses and whatnot, and all these guys you kind of know, but they really focus on one thing. Now, there are people who can do it, you know, but that can do more than one thing. But for the majority, if you focus on the one thing and you spend your time there, that's going to increase your chances of catching that rabbit, right? Catching a rabbit anyways. I feel like with these 2 that I have, like I have a foot on, like there's 2 boats in the water, and I have a foot on each of them, and they're starting to spread apart. Like I'm not going to choose to jump in a boat, so I'm just going to fall in the water if I don't pick one here. And that's what I feel like, and that quote kind of resonated with me in that regard. But tell us a little bit about your background. You kind of gave us a little bit there of some of the partnerships and whatnot, but I want people to understand how you got to be who you are and do what you do.
You know, I always struggle with telling this story. It's like, you know, I kind of tell the same story over and over again, and I'm not sure that it paints the best picture. Yeah. But I guess I grew up in a culture of independence and entrepreneurialism. Both my parents work for themselves. My dad is a consummate entrepreneur. You know, he loves the next idea. He's done a variety of businesses. A lot of that was very blue collar construction. So I grew up in that world, you know, like earning $1. Yes, there was a bigger plan. Yes, it wasn't just what you did, but a lot of the work happened, you know, with your blood, sweat, and tears, like in a literal way, not like when we do marketing and like I'm sweating and crying because of some stress, but like literally because it's 100 degrees outside and you're shoveling something, right? Or so I grew up in that environment, and you know, was exposed because my dad is a reader and entrepreneur. You know, he exposed me to Rich Dad Poor Dad at a young age, and that, I would say more than anything, that book shaped my viewpoint on what success looks like, on what the goal is, and it is the number one reason why I attended some different colleges, but I didn't ever get a diploma, because back in my head I'm like, this is a waste of time for me, because I really just wanted to do business. So like, you know, getting a BA in business was like, that's not going to, I don't want a job, and even if I did, that's probably not going to get me a very good job. I mean, when I graduated, when I was in college, you know, 20 years ago, my peers were graduating with those kinds of degrees with just debt and no job. You know, nobody was hiring somebody with a generalized degree. So, you know, I kind of followed in my father's footsteps, and that seemed amazing, all the way up until 2008 happened. And so I went from like, life is, you know, all I have to do is just step into my father's shoes, and we're going to do real estate development. We're going to build houses. We're doing these cool projects. I was making a ton of money at a very young age, at least for that time and for me, right? Like, relatively speaking, in my mind, I was like, success is mine. And then, you know, the world stopped spinning. And if you were in the real estate world, like 2008, like the music stopped playing. And so a lot of my career and who I am today is the journey that like you kind of went on over the 10 years that followed that, right? And kind of refining, going from like my path was laid out to finding myself as an entrepreneur. And I did a lot of different things, from network marketing. I had a pretty long career or it feels like a long career, in home inspections and doing different things. But I think it was just like kind of this passion for business. And there was these problems that we had when things slowed down, and that I kept seeing other businesses had around, like, they don't know how to connect with clients. They don't know how to do marketing. Marketing was like this enigma, right? Like, you just do a great job and word of mouth happens, and, you know, you make deals. And so I was fascinated by that, which is how my wife and I started a marketing business almost 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And with just the aim of like, how do we kind of solve this thing? And it all started with video. I made a video of a house renovation we were doing on our house. I got a GoPro, right? I got a GoPro and a stick, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm making this video. And it had no purpose, but I saw like I had nothing going for me, no talent, no skills, no training at the time. And yet every one of my professional peers was seeing my content and telling me about it. Like, people were stopping me in Walmart and Lowe's and being like, I've been watching your videos. When's the next one come out? I can't wait to see what happens next. Yeah. And it was like, there's something here. And so then we started applying that to our other businesses. And it was like just insane results. We're making simple videos, and it's just like, it's like the graph just takes like a J curve on our growth. And I'm like, okay, we can help businesses do this. Like, this is something. So then, you go and you learn the things, and you go and you get, you get trained on how to tell stories and to write and to make videos, and, went on that whole journey. And I'm just still on that crusade, because as long as it's been, when I first started like banging the drum about like, you got to learn to, as a business, to create this media, you got to learn to do these things. I've only seen the opportunity get better, but the adoption rate is still a little low. And the people that are doing it, they're still kind of missing the mark. I still get hired to do brand videos, and I'm fine to do that. Like, it's great. I love creating content, but that's not great media. That's not great marketing. And so I love the strategy. I love solving problems and kind of being in this world of helping other businesses do that is really what gives me joy.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head on a few different things there. The one, you spoke earlier about, having all the ideas. Like, I want to do everything. I'll walk in here on our huge whiteboard that we have, and I'll write down like 10 things I must have thought about that night. And then Chris, who's my right-hand guy here, our operations guy here at BB, he will be like, Marvin, we don't have the capacity to do this. We don't have the capacity to do this, right? Start wiping it off. And but there's a couple where it hits, and he's like, yes, we can do this. Yes, we can do this. We can take this one and apply it and do it. But every time we do that, I immediately remember that I need to create media around that thing. I'm going to have to create media around this. And the video that you did of the house renovation early on, more than likely, it didn't have to be great, because you were one of the very few doing it, right? That's how my early videos were.
It wasn't great.
And then, none of mine. I was telling somebody yesterday who had a guest on the podcast, and as a young guy, and I was telling him, I'm like, like 10 years ago I made a video. He's like, I was 12 when you made that. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, those ones are embarrassing. Like, you go back to the Wiscoat page and look at those. You can tell I wasn't refined. I didn't know what I was doing. There was really no story. The video, I knew what I wanted to do for the video, like what the video was about, and that was about it. But I was also doing brand videos before that, because I didn't want to show my face. I didn't want to tell a story. I just wanted to show my work. But and it did fine early, but when I really started to tell a story and let people follow along and they became fans, that's when that J curve happened. We went from what we made, which was the most I'd ever made in 1 year at Wiscoat, to doubling, and then doubling that the year after, right? And then doubling that again a couple of years later. So like, I filled the market with all my stuff, and it came back to where like now we do really well there. But the thing is, I have done it. My friends, I spoke in 2018 in Cleveland at the National Paving Expo, and I gave a talk on this, on using social media. Now, this is 2018. Yes, we're in 2024 finally, but so it was 6 years ago. And I can remember talking about the different social media platforms, the videos, why you're going to do these videos, and how your audience is going to receive it, and what it's going to do for your business. And literally, Brad, like, they looked at me like I was green, like I was an alien, like I had no clue what I was talking about. My peers that I have seen become extremely successful adapted those things that I spoke about then, and things that and things that other people who are successful in all these other trade industries have adapted. And yes, the big giant companies, the general contractors, the huge ones, can do brand videos, sure, fine. But the ones that are middle to smaller size, I honestly firmly believe they have to create media, and they have to tell a story, and they have to show, and it has to be something that makes people stop scrolling. And that's kind of what you've embodied and do and have done there by focusing on marketing and media creation and whatnot, and content strategy. Like you guys do a fantastic job of it. What is it that causes business not to grow? The hesitation, like what causes businesses not to grow? Because there seems to be like you're about on the LinkedIn was saying there, where some of them never really find any level of success. There's guys here where we live locally that are like, yep, I build decks, and like they might go to the bar, or somebody knows them at an event or at a restaurant, and they're like, the local kind of know, hey, yeah, this guy started building decks, so-and-so told me. But that's like the cap of their marketing, because they want to put it in the newspaper or in the phone book or whatever, and we know that's futile. Is it the marketing that causes them, is it the lack of good marketing and social media marketing and whatnot that causes them not to grow? Like, what causes businesses not to grow?
That's such a big question. It's
huge.
It's such a big question. I'm going to do my best to not drag out a like massive answer, but I don't want to say it's just marketing, because it's just one piece. So that's the first thing.
Right.
Marketing is just one piece. I think with businesses that never find any level of successes, most people, like in the industries that you and I have cut our teeth in, when you start a business, you are a tradesman, a craftsman, you have a skill, right? You have this technical, maybe not overly technical, but technical, whether you're building a deck or you're paving a parking lot, you're a framer on a house, or you install plumbing or whatever. You have this trade skill. And most small business owners that get started don't ever consider any part of the business. And that's really the problem. They kind of have the skill. They're like, I don't want to work for Jim. Jim is an a-hole. I don't want to work for him anymore. I'm going to make my own rules. I know how to do this. He's not paying me enough. He's charging $100 an hour and he's paying me $25. That hardly seems fair. And so they go out into the marketplace with a skill. And like you said, like, their buddies, their friends, their family, like their network, which is like, that's like the first major marketing strategy, we'll give them some work.
Yeah.
But without any of the other kind of things around what it takes, like whether that's just like keeping track of your, your finances, and what does it really mean to make money? Is it when someone pays me $1,000, am I making money? Or, how do I know if I made a profit? I mean, there's people that I've run into over the years, because of all the consulting in both my business and then in other people's businesses and projects I've done. It's blown my mind, the size businesses that people run, like, $1 million, $2 million service businesses that really have no idea if they're profitable or not. And so that mindset follows business owners around up to a point. Some reinvent what they know about business. They get a mentor, they join a coaching group, they get plugged in and they learn those things. But it's like that lack of treating your business like a business, I guess, is the maxim, right?
Yep.
That's kind of the first thing. The second thing is the other type of entrepreneur is probably more like me. And I have ideas. I'm an idea guy. So like for me, it's like I have a great idea, right? Because all my ideas are just,
well, mine
winners.
Are perfect. But all of mine are winners,
home runs
for sure.
Home runs.
Yep.
So when I have a great idea, and I'm a galvanizer. So like once I'm an idea person and I'm a galvanizer. So I'm happy to skip like the discernment process, right? So like I have a great idea and then I want to tell people about it. And whether entrepreneurs are exactly the same way, we tend to take our ideas to market, or we have our business that we take to market, and maybe it worked once, right? Maybe we did the thing, and 10 years ago, everybody wanted to buy what we had. Like if I was a social media marketing manager, right, in 2014 or 2015, I would have had all the work I could have done times 10. If I tried to start that business today, it's going to be a little bit harder. There's 100 times more of them. That basic skill is just not something that's an enigma for companies anymore to find the person that posts, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the demand went away, but here's where I'm headed with this, is we take things to market that don't have demand. And this is kind of one of the messages that like I put in my book is, even if we have a very clever marketing campaign and we make lots of videos and we have really cool taglines and a great website and these like fun ads, if the fundamental value that we provide doesn't have any demand, right?
Yeah.
Even if people need it. And I have created many products in my career that I know people needed, but they didn't want it. There was no demand.
Yeah.
It was too early, too late, just too confusing. Whatever it is that doesn't do that. And great marketing can't fix a lack of demand. So I think those are kind of like the starting block issues. And then the things, you know, that don't help a business, I feel, you know, I'm not the authority on that subject, but it really kind of comes into business owners max themselves out. They get, you know, they become like the octopus, right? Like they're trying to have their hands on 8 or 10 or 20 things. You know, they're trying to run their books, manage 10 people without a manager in place, and then, like, you know, they're the kind of the person that still does the selling, and they're kind of doing the marketing. And then the problem is they've built their business into a place that's run out of cash. And because it actually, the thing nobody ever told us when we started our business, Marvin, and unless maybe somebody told you, they didn't tell me, that to grow a business is expensive. Right? Like,
yes.
the myth is we're going to grow, and growth means more money, so then we keep growing. But actually the truth is you grow yourself broke in business. And so I think business owners and that size happens. Like in a service company, it's 8 to 12 employees in that $900,000 to $1.2 million. Now, if you build things or you have more cost of goods sold, that number can be a little bit bigger. You know, there's variability there. That's not a hard rule. But there's that size, right? And business owners build themselves into that wall. And would great marketing fix that? No, it wouldn't. But there's a lot of businesses that have really valuable products that know how to deliver them, and they have just completely lost touch with how to communicate to new customers. Because they think that what was okay or acceptable 20 years ago when they got started is still how they think today. So sorry for like the overly big answer. Like, I know I rambled.
No, it was a big question. And I think you touched on a lot of the things that are causing it. And even the ones where you're talking about, you know, they lost touch. We see it with some big box stores and stuff, right? And
all the time.
Like department stores, right? And then you might see we go into one now. I'm thinking of two, right? Our J.C. Penney closed here. That was close to us, and it looks like there's more of them closing, and Shopko and Kmart and all those ones. But Eli and I, my son, we went into one. We just got back from vacation. We went into Rue 21, and on the outside it looks like, oh, this is awesome. Like, there's young kids out there. It looks, you know, on the posters outside, and there's, you know, like Tupac on some of the shirts and all this stuff. And then we get in there, and after a while, Eli's like, this stuff really isn't that good, right? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, it looks cool, but it's not really that good. And to me, that was like, they're doing a great job marketing to a certain people. Hey, this stuff's cool. And then if you really get down and look at it, it's not actually what they desire. And I think like that the problem is with like JC Penney's or some of these other bigger ones, they had the products, but they didn't adapt the marketing strategy and ideas and how to deliver it didn't come with the time. Because there's no way, in my mind, when we Eli and I did this analogy, that Rue 21 should be kicking JC Penney's ass. Like, that just shouldn't have happened. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. They had all the capital. They had the storefronts. They had the distribution. You know, they
just lost touch.
They did. They lost touch. You know, I think that there's different mistakes that are made. You know, I think large stores, obviously large companies, figure it out at one point. And then what happens is the growth of companies creates bureaucracy. And so a small business owner, probably the people that listen to this podcast, don't have businesses big enough to even experience bureaucracy. If you've worked in a large company, you experience it every single day.
For sure.
But for small business owners, and with anybody creating strategy, I think there's another thing, and I think it's this assumption that other people are like us. So I'm recommend a book to you, The 33 Strategies of War, of Robert Greene, a Robert Greene book.
Oh, okay.
And if you've read any of his books, they're very heavy, they're very deep, they're very long, but they will blow your mind with what's in them. And he tells a story in there about this, and it's during the English occupation of Afghanistan, right? And so the English commander, Talleyrand, brings the Shah back to Kabul. I'm not going to say it right, but Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, right? They're trying to be in charge of and be like the person that kind of helps that transition of power, right? Well, the first mistake is he rode in on his high horse with the English army to like one of the most proud cultures on the planet. And it's like again and again he kept making mistakes like this, right? Like he just kept turning, he kept zigging when he should have zagged, and it ends up with him misunderstanding what's going on, and he makes a bad deal, and he ends up getting ripped apart, like in a very literal sense, and his body parts strewn around the country. And the moral of the story is at every stage he made decisions assuming his knowledge on society and people and families and values and what made a difference to an Englishman, which was different than what the Afghan people believed. And our mistake is, and we do this, and I'm saying this because we do this in our marketing, we do this in our go-to-market, is we assume that we go and we look in a mirror and we make decisions for ourselves. Yeah, and that's not it's probably not the people buying from us. They're not us. They don't think like us. They don't feel like us. They don't talk like us. And so we are tone deaf entirely to what they want. And that's what happens in the JCPenney that closed down and all the other big stores that lost touch, the Barnes and Nobles and all those. And it's what's happening in small businesses too. They're looking in a mirror instead of actually getting in their customer's shoes and understanding that perspective.
I think about that statement when it comes to content that I see companies, small businesses, especially my industry, service businesses in the asphalt industry, when they make content or they say, we have a social media presence and it's a picture of a job that they finished, call us today, blah, 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 right? Or it might, even if it is a video, it's just like birds chirping in the wind, like going, of a new parking lot that they put in. Call us today, blah, 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 free estimates, right? And I'm like, that's not what your clients want to see, right?
Right.
They want to know, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. Absolutely. They want to get to know you. They want to understand why they should like you, and why they should trust you. Because if all you're doing is saying, hey, we put Blacktop in, so is the other 50 companies in southern Wisconsin or wherever, right? Like, they're also saying that. So you can't bring a product to market and put a can of soup next to a can of soup next to a can of soup next to a can of soup with just a different label, and everybody would be like, that's the one. They would actually have to try it. The problem is it's way too expensive to try the contractors. So you have to get to know, like, and trust them through content.
It's the old thing. Businesses are like, we're the best, or we've done it the longest, or I'm so many generations, or just pick that list of things that your potential clients don't care about at all. And so I think, like you said, we build this on the wrong premise. Now, you said something else that is really on my heart right now, and I think we're in a crisis and businesses are going to have to figure this out. Otherwise, they're just going to be
surpassed.
Yeah, I was going to use another phrase, but I'd probably not the best one to use. They're going to get lost in this if they don't learn this. We're in a crisis of trust. Whether it is, fake news, misinformation on, people now believe documentaries and other information. Like, we believe that Google's not 100% telling us the truth anymore. We believe social media is manipulating the messages, we see. We hear it all the time. We're not sure what to believe in the news. There is a million different companies trying to tell us that they have the best product, whether it's a pair of pants or the thing of whiskey or the men's wallet or the whatever it is that you get advertised. Like I get advertised like this list of things from
revolutionary products.
The best pair of this, the best one of that. We're getting bombarded with all of this. And then if that wasn't enough, we have AI come into the picture, right? So now that we know that a lot of things that are being like, well, are the people, is that video of a person, is it real? Is what they're saying real? Is it just AI? Is that, did all these posts and these emails and these blogs and these whatever all get written by AI? And so now we're facing a crisis of people don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
And that's your job with your marketing, is to create trust, right? And so we have to start realizing, like, well, how do people connect? Well, they connect when they can look each other in the eye, right? And they can get to know you, and there's a level of authenticity, and there's a level of credibility with that. And so we have to reshape our content. One, our goal is to create trust, not get them to call us yet. Like, they've got to trust us first. If they trust us and they believe we're knowledgeable, they can find our phone number. They know how to type our business name into Google, right? Like, people know how to do that. Like, they don't need your help. But what they do need your help with is your trust. And then the second thing is, we've got to realize that the places we go to get in front of them, why they're there, right? Like, if I want to get somebody's trust on social media, the post that's like, it's just like you said, the wind noise in the background because they just did it on their cell phone and they just did this, and like, call us today, and the picture of the finished job. People are on social media for entertainment. They're there to learn about their friends and see what people are up to and watch a funny video. And so the thing is like, you have to compete with that. Whether you want to or not, you have to compete with it, because whether the person is a 60-year-old guy or a 25-year-old person, whatever your demographic is, you have to compete with what's in their feed. If that's where you want to be visible, if you're going to do social media, you have to compete with that. And so what it takes to make great content, when you and I got started in this, the barrier was really low. Like, businesses weren't making content on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, right? So you made it, people watched it.
Started then. Yeah, thank God we started then.
Absolutely. So I got that positive feedback. I did it and I got results. Now that bar of like what great content is different. It's harder. And
it's a lot harder.
But it's also necessary. So, and that's part of the message.
In my opinion, Dynapac CC900G roller is the best roller on the market for driveway and small parking lot paving contractors. The seismic technology in these rollers is unbeatable for the smoothness and compaction they provide. Take my word for it, or visit Dynapac.com to find a dealer near you.
Hey, Blacktop Banter fans, this is Michael with Aquafault. Aquafault is the only permanent repair material for asphalt and concrete that uses water. And installation is simple. Just pour, add water, and tamp. It's that easy. An Aquafault repair can be open to traffic immediately and fully sealed within 24 hours. Visit aquafault.com to learn more.
I work closely with KM International to design what I believe is the best seal coating unit on the market. The Blacktop Banter Edition seal coating unit, available in both 550 and 700-gallon versions. Learn more about the unit by visiting kminternational.com.
Quick startups, fume-free, automatic agitator shutoff, a splash-proof lid, and pumping on demand, these features are essential for any serious asphalt maintenance contractor. Elevate your game with the Crafco SuperShot line of melters by visiting crafco.com today.
Hi contractors, it's Kyla from Wiscoat. We use Stencil Plus for all of our pavement marking stencils. You can save 10% on your stencil order by using code BB10 during checkout at stencilplus.com or by calling 877-372-6055.
In the past year, Jobber has been our CRM of choice at Wiscoat, and it's made our world exponentially better efficiency-wise. For our small seal coating company, it has helped build the solid foundation we can scale from. Jobber is now a sponsor of Blacktop Banter and helps bring this show to you. With this partnership, Jobber is offering an exclusive savings to BB listeners of 20% off for 6 months. To take advantage of this, Find the jobber link in the show description and get to improving your process today. I think when I spoke at that event at MPE and those guys were listening, the thing that hit them that I think made them look at me sideways is the realization that they had to do it. You know, like this is one of those things. Like, oh, I have to do this. This comes with the territory. No, I'm good. You know, this has worked for us for so long. You know, doing it this way, the way we've done it is how we've done it and how we're going to do it. And I'm not going to start doing this. This another thing I have to do. And I actually had somebody in the audience say that, right? Saying, well, you know, we're doing X amount. Been doing it 20 years where we are and whatever. And I'm like, that's fine. And you might do it another 20 years off of what you've done so far with your reputation. But I can promise you there's going to be somebody like me who harnesses this and utilizes this and starts building an upwards trajectory to either bury you or buy your company one day when your phone stops ringing because you haven't done this. And, you know, and I used a Gary Vee analogy when I was speaking. I was like, guys, we don't put our ads in newspapers or phone books or anything else anymore. I said, I don't even bother with billboards. You know why I don't bother with billboards? Because when I'm driving down the road and I look at somebody in their car, they're looking at their phone while they're driving. Like that's where their attention is. It's
right.
like that's where all the attention is going to be and where it's going to go. You know, and I think that guy was insane. I said, give me your cell phone. He's like, for what? I said, no, just give me it. Like, give me it. Don't get another cell phone. He's like, I can. I run my whole life off of it. I was like, I know. That's why it needs to be in there. That's why your content and where to get caught needs to be in there. You can't live without this thing. That's where your attention is going to be most of the time. And I spoke on it and then wrote articles for magazines. Not AI didn't write them. I wrote them.
Yeah.
And, you know, slowly people would start to see what we've done. And now with building Blacktop Banter, which no one imagined would even be possible probably or had even thought of, strictly on social media, it's proven, right? Like, yes, this is what we do, and you can strictly just do that and build amazing things, and you probably should be doing media. Only, in my mind, you should only be doing social media and doing internet media and SEO and whatnot. But there still is, where we are, we're pretty rural, still people that reads a newspaper and whatever. But as you were talking earlier and you were talking about their feeds, right? People want to be entertained. People don't buy newspapers to look at the ads, right? Like they don't buy it, you know, they don't read a magazine. No one reads Pavement magazine to look at the ads. They read it for the articles, to be entertained, to spur thought. Same thing with our phones. Like if I'm scrolling and I see a picture, yes, I may need a deck built. And yes, I might see the picture and stop because I see somebody says, we build decks. Mm-hmm. But I'm probably not going to buy from that time. But if I scroll again and I see somebody out with a hammer, oh, you know, they hit their finger like, oh, building this giant deck for so-and-so over here. And that's part of it, part of the game. Yeah. You know, we did this. Then all of a sudden I'm in and I'm learning from that guy. I'm getting to know that guy, that contractor or whatever. Maybe I follow. Maybe I stick to his post and start watching. Pretty soon, if I'm going to get a deck built, I want this guy to do it. I completely forgot about the picture that said, call us today, right? That's the trick. That's what's going on. And in a roundabout way, what I end up saying is these guys don't want to do that. Like to have to swallow that pill that you have to be on camera now and be an entertainer essentially is like so hard for these guys because they didn't get into it for that. You know, they got into it because they like to work with their hands. It's what their dad did. Like, yeah. You know, it wasn't to do this. And now some guys, I'm not going to lie, I've watched businesses go under because they failed to adapt to the way things should be done marketing wise now. And that's tough, man. I mean, we have a thing in our industry and it's like vanity numbers. Mm-hmm. So like we have 1-800-Blacktop or whatever, 1-800-Sealcoat.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and that's like, we remember that phone number. I buy it because people can remember it.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Dude, any other of my friends' businesses, I don't know the phone number to their business.
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like I just don't, and it's not even in my phone. What do? I put it in Google, right?
Yeah.
And oh, here we go. Yep.
Well,
so
I think about like we have a junk company, that like a junk car company here locally, and they've got like a jingle on television they have for years. And it's like, you know, I've lost their phone number. I haven't had television so long. Like I'm actually a little bit outside of hearing it. But it's like, you know, they say the phone number to the jingle and they're like, we'll come get that car for you. You know, and it's like for years I could just rattle that number off the top of my head. So if I had a car that needed to go, like who else would I call? Like they're the guy.
That's right.
You know,
that's right. Those are the guys.
And yeah, so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was thinking like how effective that stuff is.
Yeah. Well, what that did was create, you know, like we see it sometimes, like those jingles. It's like, hey, it's Pete over here at Pete's Plumbing, and it's like, if you lose your heat, you should call Pete.
Yeah,
like, that's essentially creating know, like, and trust, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they did it on the radio. The problem is, it's not a problem. It's just that the medium has changed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
In this medium, you can't just use a photo. It's not a magazine. It's not a newspaper. You can't just use audio. It's not the radio, right? It takes a video at this point. You can put those other things on there, but it takes video. And why would you not want to? That's kind of my thing, is it has the possibility for you to create a video when all of your competitors only post pictures or might not even be utilizing it. You can blow them out of the water if they don't do that. The other thing is, my daughter and son are better at creating videos than I am. That's how I know that if we don't stay with it and adapt and bring on people that even can do it, somebody is going to come along and do it better. And they're going to do what you do and do it better. And therefore, they're going to start to chew up market share. And does that, you know, the struggle is, as I mentioned, they don't want to do that. Like,
that's true.
You don't want to. They just don't want to. They didn't get into building houses, paving, building decks, you know, pressure washing to make videos and content. Now, there are some. We had a guest yesterday, a young man named Michael from Michael's Paving, and he's like, I was so bored putting in driveways. I wanted to make videos and make content and have fun. So I started doing it. And I don't know what I'm doing, so I hired this guy. And he brought over this guy, Seth, into the video frame. And he's like, and Seth knows how to do it. And Seth likes making videos. I wanted to make videos. We just work together and we make videos.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how's it going? Like, how's it been going? He's like, it's going really, really good. Like, the phones are ringing. People recognize us. He's like, I'll be driving around and we'll be like, Michael, you're the best. Because that's how his videos.
Yeah.
He's like, we're the best. Like, they did what you did, where you're like, you know, we're the best. They took that and they like caricatured it, right? Where he's like, we're the best. We have the best pavers. We have the best dump trucks. And like, he created this persona that people get to know and they want to be around, right? So yes, there's a strategy that goes into it. I know we went a lot down this tangent of what causes business not to grow, but I think you need that head of steam. You need to be able to have that view and perception in your market in order to build a business that you're either going to hand off to somebody or sell at some point, right? If it has that momentum, we get a lot of people now, like, it's like an email list has a lot of value. If you have a certain amount of followers or impressions in your area from your posts and you can see the comments and all these things, a brand tool built in that, in my opinion, I would much rather buy a business that has done social media marketing extremely well and storytelling very well versus one who hasn't, right? Because I know that they have a head of steam there. So to me, that's one of the key elements that makes a business sellable. But I wanted to ask you that question, like what else for service business guys do you see when they have an exit strategy or do businesses where they sell? What are some of the key things that they have to have in place to make that happen?
I had the opportunity to do a project with a guy that was a buyer's agent for a private equity company, and got to dive in pretty deep into all these things. You know, there's definitely several things that are important. You know, the things that they're looking for. And I think we have this like really grand opportunity right now because there's a massive consolidation happening in a lot of service industries, I would say most, where there is private equity money. And so I think the first thing is like removing the stigma around that. Like that's not a bad thing to sell your company to private equity. They're probably going to give you the best deal. You know, your buddy across town probably doesn't have the capital to give you that deal. So I think it's like kind of having some expectations and realizing that, you know, they're going to kind of expect you to deliver them what you have today in a way that they can take it over. And what they really want, you know, is for you to continue to work in the business. So I think if you're planning to sell your business, the first thing is have the expectation that at a minimum, you're probably going to have to work in the business 2 years after you sign on the dotted line. The second thing is, you know, even if your business is in a perfect spot to sell today, like you're going to need about another year before you sign on that dotted line. A good buyer is going to do due diligence on you, which brings me to the next thing. Like if you want to sell your business, you need impeccable books. You may not have that mentality that so many small business owners do of like, I keep 2 sets of books, right? Like the books I like do my taxes on, and then like the ones I figure. They're not interested. They're not interested in that. A good buyer, a buyer with money, they want to see that you have made profit consistently year over year. They would really like to see that to be growing. They're looking for you to beat an industry norm. You know, in some industries, so there's going to be like a threshold of if you're less than, you know, in some industries it's like 9 or 10% net profit, and if you don't know how to calculate your net profit, like you're not even close to ready to sell, and they're going to be looking at that. So not only, you know, are you getting a multiple when you sell your business of that net profit, not of how much revenue you have. So it's like if you have you do $2 million in revenue, they're not buying it based on that. They're buying it based on, does that business keep 200,000 or 300,000 at the end of the year?
Right.
So that means like you have to, like, as you grow your business, get your mind around, you have to show profit and pay taxes on it, which is like, I was raised like, show no profit, right? Like we try to keep our money. So we buy stuff and we try to drive that down. But the truth is, a buyer for a business is going to think like a bank. So they're actually going to see that you have made profit and paid taxes on that profit consistently over time. The next thing they're going to look at is you got to have diversity in your contracts. So like one thing that does happen with service businesses that like really experience big growth is they'll have like, so I'm imagining like an exterior maintenance company or whatever, like they'll get in bed with Walmart and they'll get like 10 Walmart stores, and that will be like 50% of their revenue, right? Like I know a guy out in Memphis that was cleaning for, I want to say it was UPS, maybe out there. And like out of his $2.5 million cleaning business, they represented $1.5 million of it.
Dang.
That's a big problem for a buyer. So a professional buyer, a private equity buyer, is going to want no customers to be worth more than 10% of your total revenue. So they're going to penalize you in their valuation based on that. Then they're going to start looking at things like, you know, your systems, your equipment, you know, what is it going to look like over the coming years to run your business? So, for example, if you are like, you know, you're running your business, a lot of guys, like it's been 5 years since you bought everybody trucks and everything's running down, and they're seeing a big capital expense coming up, like that's going to affect how they get paid back for the business. And so that's going to factor into what they're willing to pay you. And then I think the last part is your ability to make a good deal in your business is also driven by the economy. And I don't just mean like, oh, is our business up this year or down this year? But it's also driven by like the interest rates, because people that buy your business are buying it also on credit, right? Like they've got a line of credit they get from a financial institution to buy the business, even people with very deep pockets. So when the interest rates are high, the EBITDA for your business will go down. When interest rates are down, they're able to borrow more money. So like there is a timing aspect in when you sell your business and how you sell your business. But the bigger, more developed, more profitable, more diverse your business is, and their evaluation, they're going to be running an evaluation. One of the big key things for small business owners is If you were to step away from your business and someone else were to have the keys, would they be just as successful as you? And what would that take? Because that's what they're factoring in, right? Like,
okay.
If you are the conduit for that success, every relationship, everybody thinks that you have to show up and smile and shake the customer's hand. They're going to be that makes it, one, worth less, and two, they're going to be like, you have to stay longer. Because if like they're just buying a bunch of empty contracts, and when you go away, that business is like, oh, I don't want to do that. They want you to transition it for them.
Yeah.
So there's several aspects, but the cool thing is it's very exponential. So if you sell your business when interest rates are a little lower and your profit is higher, your EBITDA actually multiplies too. So it's like let's say at $2 million, your business is a 5X of your net profit, right? So $2 million, you have a 15% net profit. So that's $300,000 of profit. Your business is worth 5X that. So your business is worth cash value of $1.5 million. That's probably very disappointing for some people, but probably not far from the reality. When your business is doing $5 million and making 20% profit, you probably get paid like an 8X EBITDA. So not only, yes, my business is bigger, right, and it has more profit, but the multiple goes up too. So the more developed you can make your business, the more valuable it is for them. Because that's their, you got to understand the people that buy businesses are actually looking to create big groupings of businesses so that one day they can sell it up the trade too. And they went and paid 5 to 10X, and then they'll sell it to a publicly traded company at 20X. So that's what they're trying to do. So the bigger chunk you have, the more stable that chunk is, the more they can pay you for it. Right. So like a friend of mine sold a business, like an $8 million business, and it was doing 20% net profit. And they sold it for, I want to say it was 8 or 9X EBITDA. So it was a big sale, versus if they had sold it a couple of years before when it was smaller, it not only would have been worth less because it had less revenue, but it also would have been worth less because there was less systems in place. So
less multiples. Yeah, less things to multiply. Yeah. We had somebody from so that's been happening quite a bit in our industry, where we've had capital investment groups coming and buying up a lot of paving companies that are of decent size. And they kind of was talking about some of those things. And I think it kind of hit the guys in the face in the Blacktop Banter Success group of like, don't wait until you get to where you can have 8, 10, 12, 20, 30 employees to get a good system in place, like, because you need it. Like, do it now before you need it. And that was the guy that came in from the capital holding company. That was like his message. He's like, build your business right now to look like something that we would want to buy. Yeah. He's like, just build it there, and then that becomes the norm. And if you do make it and it does become big, and we want to be able to do it, we want to be able to buy it because of that. There's actually one of them where, their plan is to do what you described, where they're going to buy a bunch and then sell it to a publicly traded company, right, at some point. And they actually go in and implement the same operating system at all of these businesses. So it's taking that time. The business owners have to stay on and help implement this system. And then also, once it gets implemented at their business, they're going to the other businesses that the capital holding company is buying too and helping them implement this thing. So it's all this like symbiotic relationship of businesses being bought and made so that it's a uniform product that they can just literally go to the P&Ls, add them all together and be like, yep, this is what it's worth. Like, overall, all of them are doing this. Exactly.
Thing. That's a big part of what that middleman who buys businesses does, is they want to install in a standard system of operating. Even if you have a great system, even if you have great software and great books, which you need to be valuable to them, they're also going to want to be like, we have our system and now we need you to help us change over. One thing I think is interesting, because I had the opportunity to interview a lot of people that sold their businesses in the project that I worked on, was it's not just about getting out of the business. For a lot of these business owners, they were able to sell, which put a big chunk of money in their pocket, right? But then they were able, when they stayed on, they got to shed all the jobs they hated. So instead of wearing 5 hats as the CEO, the holding company actually already had that person. They had, an HR department. They had a bookkeeping department. They had this department and that department. And all of a sudden, that business owner who was carrying all this weight that made which is why they wanted to sell to begin with, they were just worn out. Now they just got to do the part they love, like whatever that was, whether it was like, they just got to go shake customers' hands.
Customer
and like make
relations,
deals. Yeah, and they stepped into a role that was really fulfilling. It was why they wanted to do the business to begin with. The holding company paid them a bigger salary than they were paying themselves, and they got to be a part of seeing the business go from the one I'm thinking of. It went from 8 to 20 million in the next 2.5 years. That wouldn't have happened for them if they hadn't sold. But he got to he was mentored by people that knew how to do that, and it was like he got growth in it, which is probably not what the average business owner thinks about when they think of selling their business. It's not like this. It's you get to be a part of something new, and I think that's a really cool reward that doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah, I have a friend. He got bought out by his business partners. There was 3 of them, and he owned a paving company, or it was asphalt and concrete company. But he got bought out by his 2 business partners, and then they got bought out the next year by a capital holding company. And those guys are still at the business. They're doing day-to-day stuff. The other guy that got bought out by his 2 partners beforehand is bored as shit. Like, he's trying to figure out, like, he has non-compete, and he's like, I don't know what to do. Like, I go to the cabin sometimes and, hang out. And I'm like, it sounds miserable, right? He's like, yeah, it is. I can't wait till I can do something again, right? So he's trying to find his way through and figure it out. But yeah, I think it's there's a lot of elements that go into it, and we primarily talked about capital money, buying it up. But obviously, that's if there are businesses of size where people buy them just to eliminate the competition. Like that still does go around on small scale in communities and different things like that. But in today's society, there's a lot of different places and a lot of ways that can happen. And there's business, like we spoke about earlier in the podcast, there's businesses just dry up too. Like they just flop. Like there's so many variables going into business now on the outcomes, right? There's so many different outcomes that could happen and from so many different places. But either way, like what I was alluding to with your, local businesses buying out other local businesses, they might just buy you on competition, see your books, and it might not be the perfect best system or whatever, but it's good enough. They go to the bank, they buy it, and they buy you out, and then that's that. That happens. Lawn care companies, landscape companies, I see that sometimes back and forth. And I get it, but either way, the advice of the guy from the capital holding company of you should have everything. It's just good practice. It's good practice for you. It's a good idea to get into and creates not only value, but also eliminates some of the stressors of everything. Like you said, there's guys that run $1 million businesses that don't know if they're profitable or not, right?
And that's sad, right? Because it took a lot of work to get there.
It's super sad.
Here's the thing, Marvin. I think the easiest way to sum it up, and this is like one of those like reality pills, is a business that someone else would want to buy is the kind of business that someone would want to own. So if you want to sell a business, you need to build the kind of business that's great to own. The one that operates without you, that has great systems, that's profitable, that has good books, that can go to the bank and get a loan. That's the kind of business that someone's going to want to buy, whether it's a savvy entrepreneur in your area or a larger private equity company. It's that same business. And I think that, keeping good books was like the number one thing I heard. Because at the end of the day, you may need to borrow money at some point. And if someone buys your business, there's a really, really good chance they're going to need to go to the bank. And the bank is going to look at the same numbers the private equity company looks at. They're going to say, how much profit? How stable is it? How many years has it gone on for? Because they're protecting their investment. And even if even if the guy in town is like, yeah, I'll buy you for $1 million. If the bank is like, this is worth $500, it doesn't matter how much he wants it. Either he has the money or he's going to have to, prove the case to the bank. So,
that's a good one. Say it again. Say it again.
The kind of business that someone would want to buy is the kind of business you'd like to own. They're the same thing.
Yeah.
A business that's great to own is a business that's great to sell.
So aim to build that type of business.
Yes, I think that's the advice.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, I was going to ask you for a piece of advice, to kind of sum it up and get there, get an overarching piece of advice. And we did talk about media creation, and we talked about a lot in this bad boy, but an overarching piece of advice that you would give to the listeners as we close, what do you think that would be, Brad? Because you see a lot, man, in what you do. What do you think it would be? It doesn't have to be business. It could just be life in general too, but something that's going to help people.
Well, we'll save the life advice for another conversation.
Perfect. I can't wait.
For me,
don't ask me for any. I can tell you that. Don't ask me life advice for sure.
Know, right? For me, I have a passion for connection, and I want to help businesses create that. And I see that as the biggest opportunity right now. Like, yeah, media is a big thing because it's the medium, right? Like we have to respect the medium, but I think it's become empathetic to your audience, become empathetic to the people you want to do business with, and then learn how to establish yourself as a known, liked, and trusted authority in that space. If you do that, you can find your way forward strategically. The truth is all that stuff we talked about like, not being empathetic to your audience. All you have to do is ask. All you have to do is talk to them. They can tell you. They can tell you what matters to them, what they want to see, what they need to hear, where you need to take your service, or what new product that you're not making that they really want. And that's how you get over that, like, that narcissistic tendency of we make things that we think are great. So it's be empathetic and then learn how to communicate it, right? And so we have to learn how to communicate so that we can build trust. And I think that's the number one thing businesses could grow with moving forward. Like that's where the opportunity is. And if you do those two things, you can build a strategy to work through any economy, any product shift, any marketing strategy, any whatever.
No, I'm going to leave it with that. That was fantastic. It's a piece of advice that to me is a linchpin going forward. Like it's going to connect you to all your opportunities and what's available to you in the opportunity side going forward. Like we have to do this if we're gonna get cross into that area. Cool. Well, where can people catch up with you online, my friend?
I would love to connect with people on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to connect with me. We have got some really cool things. Got a book coming out here in about the next month that I'm really excited about. And you'll be able to find out more on structuretogrow.com. We've got a episodic video series I'm excited about coming out. So
cool.
That's going to be epic. I mean, like, it's going to be so freaking cool. It's TV quality, but like, aimed in this contractor space. So we're going to be doing some really cool projects and telling some cool stories. That's gritseries.com. But yeah, find me on LinkedIn. I'll be talking about any of those things. Or you can certainly connect to us on structuretogrow.com too.
For myself, for my friend Brad, who joined me today, this is Blacktop Banter, where we speak asphalt. Peace.
Hey everybody, Marvin here from Blacktop Banter, and if you enjoy the podcast and what we've been bringing to the industry, you can support us through a one-time or recurring donation at blacktopbanter.com. There we have a support tab. You click that and choose your path from there. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please do us a favor and leave a review there for us as well. As always, we speak asphalt, and thanks for your support.